Behind the Line, episode 25. I'm your host, KC. Follow me on Twitter at KC_BTL84. Hit the like and subscribe button on YouTube and leave me a 5-star rating on iTunes. As always, I appreciate the support. Going to go over the good, the bad, and the ugly from this past weekend. I'll probably surprise you a little bit with something that I'm including in the ugly segment. But I'm going to leave today with the upcoming collapse of the Dallas Cowboys that we touched on last week. Jason Garrett is literally coaching himself out of a job in Dallas. I was watching that game against New England, and several times throughout the game I questioned whether Garrett was purposely sabotaging himself or he was just insane. The play calling for Dallas was disastrous the entire game. Not only that, the Cowboys looked completely unprepared. It looks to me like Jason Garrett and Dak Prescott don't own a map or had no fucking clue that it tends to get cold in the Northeast in late November. Dak was having trouble gripping the ball in the first quarter. He finally decided to put some gloves on midway through the second quarter. Not that it really made much of a difference. Blocked punts, fumbles, interceptions. All of this happened in the first quarter. The Cowboys looked like they weren't ready for this game. And that falls on the shoulders of their head coach. I have no idea what Garrett's game plan was for this game. Watching the game, it didn't seem like the Cowboys really had a game plan at all. Zeke was carving up the Patriots' defense. One drive during the second quarter, they ran Zeke 6 or 7 times in a row. He was averaging about 6 yards a carry on that drive. Patriots couldn't stop him. What does Garrett decide to do on 3rd and 2? Put the ball in Dak's hands, which results in the predictable incompletion. Dallas has to kick a field goal. This wasn't a one-time mental error either. This happened the entire game. Zeke gets rolling, Garrett halts his momentum and turns to Dak. It's obvious that this guy has no idea what he's doing. Just look at what happened on a kickoff during the fourth quarter. Scores 13-6, New England's up. Patriots had just made the field goal. Cold, raining. New England kicks it short. And Dallas is completely unprepared for it. They whiffed the return, end up getting the ball behind the 20-yard line. The Cowboys end up putting together a decent drive. They pop a big passing play that went for 50-plus yards. They're in the red zone. Jason Garrett, in his infinite football wisdom, decides to call 2 straight passing plays on 2nd and 3rd down, with Dak throwing the ball towards the end zone. No thought given to running the ball, trying to get the first down. Nope. Let's go for it all in awful weather and try to tie the ball game. Didn't work. 2 straight incompletions. Cowboys have to kick another field goal. But it gets even better. Cowboys' next possession. It's 3rd and 1 on their own 25. 2 minutes to go. You have Zeke in your backfield. A good number 2 running back in Tony Pollard. What does the Wonder Boy offensive wizard decide to do? Put the ball in Dak's hands, of course. Play results in a 10-yard tripping penalty. So now it's 4th and 11. Backed up in your own territory. You've got 3 timeouts. Your defense has shut down Tom Brady in New England all day, for the most part. Your quarterback, Dak Prescott, has been god-awful. Punt the ball. Rely on your defense to step up and get a stop. You never know what could happen. It's raining. The ball is wet. Could force a fumble. Patriots could muff the punt. You don't know. Or you stop them 3 straight times and get the ball back with about 1:20 left. But Jason Garrett doesn't do that. No. I'm going to put the game in Dak's hands because he's been in such a good rhythm all day. 4th and 11. Dak throws an incomplete pass. Game over. You didn't even give yourself a fucking chance. Jason Garrett was coaching this game not to lose instead of coaching to win, which has been a hallmark of his entire tenure in Dallas. That's the difference between him and guys like Bill Belichick. Sean Payton, Pete Carroll. This game was a prime example of why I've been saying all year that Philadelphia will win the NFC East, basically by default. The Eagles have better coaching. Back in October, Cowboys owner Jerry Jones came out and said that Jason Garrett is a top coach in the NFL. Obviously, at the time, he had lost his fucking mind. One of the ways I measure the quality of a head coach is how his team plays against good teams. Like Dak, Garrett struggles to beat superior opponents. Sure, the Cowboys look great against scrubs. But when playing winning teams, Jason Garrett is 26-47. 36% winning percentage against teams with a winning record. As far as long-tenured head coaches are concerned, only Bill O'Brien in Houston is worse. But now Jerry Jones seems to be backtracking a bit in regards to his head coach. He was clearly and rightfully frustrated after this loss. He was angry at his coaching staff. One comment in particular, really stuck out to me. Jones said that New England has a coach who knows how to play this game and did a good job of that. Ouch. He also stated that the Cowboys' miscues on special teams is a direct reflection of coaching, and he's absolutely right. The collapse in Dallas is real, people. Like I said earlier, the Eagles are going to win this division by default. We'll get to them a bit later. Carson Wentz is an absolute eyesore right now. But with the talent the Cowboys have, they should be winning this division and running away with it. The NFC East is the worst division in football. And Dallas has been blessed with a winnable schedule. You can't go on the road and get blown out by the Jets. The game in Philadelphia on December 22nd will likely decide the division. And the Cowboys will lose. I have zero faith in this team because I have zero faith in Jason Garrett. Then I hear whispers Sunday morning that the Giants might be interested in Jason Garrett if Jerry Jones decide to fire his ass. Why? Why? That's going from bad to worse. This bum does not belong leading a team. He has consistently proven that he isn't qualified to be a head coach in this league. The Cowboys are beginning a losing streak. It started Sunday at New England, and it's going to continue this week when the Bills head to Dallas. And we're going to leave the good, the bad, and the ugly with the Buffalo Bills starting the good segment. I railed on Josh Allen the first 5 or 6 weeks of the season because, honestly, he was a turnover machine. Fumbles, interceptions. He was an equal opportunity turnover offender. Last 5 or 6 weeks, that's changed. His interception Sunday against Denver was the first interception in the last 5 weeks. Consequently, Buffalo's 4-2 during that stretch. They've won 3 of their last 4 games. I wouldn't say that Josh Allen has been great lately, but definitely an improvement over what we saw early in the season. His offensive line's protecting him, giving him time. He's keeping plays alive, making big runs. That being said, I still have concerns about Buffalo. Their best win of the season is against the Tennessee Titans. Like Dallas, the Bills struggle against winning teams. Lost to New England at home. Lost to the Eagles at home. Philadelphia came to Buffalo and blew the doors off of them. Bad loss at Cleveland. Their record is inflated. 2 wins against the Dolphins. They beat the Jets, Giants, Bungles, Redskins, Broncos, all scrubs. 1 win all season against a quality team. And the schedule is about to get brutally tough for Buffalo. I think they go into Dallas and beat the Cowboys on Thanksgiving, but they follow that with Baltimore at home, 2 straight on the road against the Steelers and Patriots. That Pittsburgh game could be interesting, depending on who's under center for the Steelers. We'll get to them a little bit later on. Then they close the season against the suddenly surging Jets at home. Luckily, they have a 2-game cushion in the wild card race, but they have very little room for error. Several teams are sitting at 6-5 and trailing Buffalo. So the Bills had to find a way to win 3 of their next 5 games. Not going to be an easy task. One of the teams trailing the Bills and making a playoff push is the Tennessee Titans. Don't look now, but the Titans are rolling. Winners of 4 of their last 5 games. I told you guys before the season, Ryan Tannehill would save the season and Mike Vrabel's job. And it's starting to come into fruition. Since Tannehill took over from Marcus Mariota in Week 6, Titans are 4-2. Beat a tough Buccaneers team, beat the Chiefs in a shootout, and had their most dominating win of the season Sunday against division rival Jacksonville. And now 6-5, with 2 games against the Texans coming up, the Titans have a chance to win the AFC South. I think Tennessee's the best team in the AFC South. I really do. Now, Deshaun Watson is by far the best quarterback in the division. But like I mentioned earlier when talking about Jason Garrett, Bill O'Brien doesn't win big games. Tennessee's better defensively. They have a better running game. I had the Titans as a 6th and final wild card team in my preseason predictions. They might end up winning the damn division. The Colts are falling apart. Lost 3 of their last 4. Jags are god-awful. Doug Marrone will likely be one of the coaches fired on Black Monday. The AFC South is going to come down to the Texans and the Titans. And Tennessee has a good chance of taking home the division. All right, looks like the Giants will be moving on from Pat Shurmur. But the other coach in New York will have his job next season. And he's got his team on a roll. After being decimated by injuries earlier in the season, then going through chaos a few weeks ago with rumors of his job being on the line, the New York Jets are clearly playing for Adam Gase right now. The Jets have won 3 straight, put a beatdown on the Raiders Sunday. The Oakland defense is god-awful. We had them in our NFL picks. I mentioned when I was talking about that game that the Raiders' pass defense concerned me, but I didn't think Sam Darnold would be able to take advantage of it. Clearly, I was wrong. Darnold was looking like Drew Brees. Torched the Oakland secondary. Now, at 4-7, the Jets aren't making the playoffs this season. That ship has sailed. But they're obviously pushing to close out this year strong to have momentum heading into next season. Sam Darnold is starting to play like the quarterback he was projected to be when he was drafted. The Jets have put up 34 points 3 weeks in a row. Another young quarterback that was feeling himself Sunday afternoon was Dwayne Haskins. And he's leading off the bad segment this week. But KC, Haskins led a 4th quarter comeback yesterday. Washington won the game. Who fucking cares? Haskins was still atrocious in that game. Dwayne Haskins didn't win that game as much as the Detroit Lions lost it. Jeff Driscoll's 3 interceptions were what won that game for Washington. Yes, Haskins led a comeback on the final drive. But that was really his only good drive of the game. Is it too early to call Dwayne Haskins a bust? Dan Snyder fired Jay Gruden for pretty much refusing to start Haskins and sticking with Case Keenum or Colt McCoy. Both of those guys are scrubs. Haskins, in my opinion, should have been starting week 1 because the Redskins weren't making the playoffs anyway. However, maybe Jay Gruden was onto something. Because clearly this guy is not ready to be a starting quarterback in the NFL. He's only completing 55% of his passes. Sunday it was only 45%. He's thrown 6 interceptions in 5 games, only 2 touchdowns. Sacked 17 times in 5 games. But something he did really bothered me yesterday. I mean, this really bothered me. Detroit either turned the ball over or there was a turnover on downs, and Washington needed to go on the field and kneel out the clock. Everyone's looking for Dwayne Haskins. Where the hell is he? He needs to go on the field, take the knee. Oh, there he is. He's fucking celebrating with the fans and taking a fucking selfie with them in the stands. Are you kidding me? Case Keenum had to come in and kneel out the clock. This is professional football. This isn't Bush League college football. I've never seen that kind of behavior from an NFL starting quarterback. Now, I understand his excitement, but come on. This is an amateur hour. This is the National Football League. Apparently, I'm not the only one who's lost hope in Haskins. The Redskins fan base seems to have lost hope as well. The attendance at that game Sunday in Washington was embarrassing. There were empty seats all over the stadium, even in the lower bowl. Fan bases will support a losing team with a young quarterback that shows promise because they've got hope for the future. But 5 games into his career, and the Redskins' first-round draft pick is already being abandoned by the Washington fan base. All right, Jameis Winston finds himself once again in the bad segment. It seems like every week he's either in the bad or the ugly segment. Another quarterback who won yesterday and was dreadful in doing so. That game against the Falcons was a microcosm of Winston's career. He put together some drives where he was unstoppable, looking like one of the better quarterbacks in the league. Then there were others where he looked like usual Jameis Winston, throwing bad interceptions. Here's the thing. The season in Tampa's over. The Saints have wrapped up the NFC South. At 4-7, there's no way the Bucs are getting a wild card spot. Jameis Winston is on the final year of his contract. He has one of the better offensive coaches in the league in Bruce Arians. Yet he still has the same problem that has plagued him his entire career. Turnovers. His decision-making is questionable at best, but the problem is he's shown no signs of improvement. Jameis Winston hasn't played one game this season without either a fumble or an interception. That's unacceptable. The margin of error is too thin in this league to be turning the ball over every single game. You look at the top quarterbacks, top teams in the NFL. Nearly all of them are good at taking care of the football. The teams with high turnovers, usually you'll find them near the bottom of the standings. Winston's thrown 20 interceptions in 11 games. He single-handedly lost the game against San Francisco in Week 1. Same with Carolina. You can make the case he was the main culprit in the blowout loss at New Orleans when he threw 4 interceptions. This guy's career is on the line, and he's showing no signs of improvement. That being said, I think Tampa will franchise tag him in the offseason and bring him back for one more year. Bucs are likely going to finish 6-10, maybe 7-9. They won't be drafting high enough to draft one of the top quarterback prospects coming out of college. But there isn't a doubt in my mind that Tampa will be looking to draft a quarterback. So the pressure will be on next season for Jameis Winston. But I think he will be brought back for one more year. Bruce Arians seems to like him. But if Tampa signs him to a long-term contract, they're out of their fucking minds. All right, let's get to the ugly from the weekend, and there was a lot of it. I'm really concerned about my New Orleans Saints. Offensive line's banged up. Teron Armstead will be missing the Thanksgiving night game against Atlanta. Should return the following week. He's got a high ankle sprain. Andrews Pete out until late December. Injuries have plagued this team all season. Kamara missed a couple of games. Brees was out for 5 weeks. Marshawn Lattimore should be back this week against the Falcons. Thank God. We really need him back and healthy ASAP. But with all the injuries, this team has found a way to keep going. A next man up mentality. And have themselves positioned to potentially be the number 1 seed in the NFC for the second straight year. Drew Brees, Michael Thomas, and Alvin Kamara showed how clutch they are on that game-winning drive against Carolina. Can't leave out Will Lutz, who always seems to make the clutch game-winning field goal. With all of that, I wasn't happy with that win Sunday. Actually, I was pretty pissed off about it. Ugliest win I've seen all season. That was the worst defensive performance from New Orleans in 3 years. They made a struggling Kyle Allen look like Cam Newton in his prime. Cam Jordan in the front 7 got plenty of pressure, but Allen made big play after big play. He torched the secondary. P.J. Williams might be the worst cover corner in the NFL. After I praised him last week for how well he played against Tampa, thinking that maybe, just maybe, he turned a corner. He comes back against Carolina and proves he still sucks. He was torched the entire game. Gave up over 100 yards and 2 touchdowns. On one play in the first half, he was caught staring in the backfield at Kyle Allen. I have no idea why. And was burned for a 50-yard touchdown. But my biggest concern with the Saints is not the defense. The defense will come back. My biggest concern is the penalties. And this falls directly on the shoulders of Sean Payton. New Orleans deserved to lose that game. I said it on Twitter. The Saints have no business winning this game. 12 penalties for over 100 yards. Damn near impossible to win with that many miscues. We can talk about how bad the officiating was all we want. And don't get me wrong. The officiating was god-awful in that game. The NFL officiating in 2019 is the worst that it's ever been. But many of the Saints' penalties were their own fault. And it wasn't just an issue Sunday against Carolina. The penalties have been a problem all season. New Orleans commits about 8 penalties a game for 64 yards. The thing is, it's getting worse. They were up 14-0 after playing a relatively mistake-free first quarter. Penalties allowed the Panthers back into the game and nearly gave the game away. Sean Payton aggravates the hell out of me at times with his play calling. Latavius Murray was dominant in the first half, especially in the first quarter. Then he mysteriously disappears for the rest of the game. Payton just didn't use him. The Saints were damn lucky to come out of that game with a win. Marcus Davenport made the play of the game, in my opinion, jumping over the line and altering the late field goal attempt, causing Carolina to miss and keep the game tied. The Saints are undisciplined. There's no reason for it. This is uncharacteristic of a Sean Payton coach team. The majority of this roster has been together for a minimum of 3 years. I don't know what's going on. I don't know if the preparation is different, but the rate at which this team is penalized is ridiculous. It seems like every third down when the defense gets a stop, a flag is on the field. It's the same offensively. Drew Brees pops a big play, called back by penalty. It's got to be cleaned up. I've been saying it the last 3 or 4 weeks about the Saints. If this team doesn't clean up the penalties, the playoff run will be short. This team is too talented. They have too much veteran leadership to be this undisciplined. All right, let's move on. Would Carson Wentz and the Eagles please step up and take over the NFC East? Wentz has been terrible all season, and his poor play was on full display against Seattle. I thought the Philly defense played well. Actually, the Philly defense has been great for most of the season. They contained Russell Wilson most of the game, only gave up 17 points, but they got no help from Wentz in this shitty Eagles offense. Philadelphia has scored 19 points the last 2 games, and 6 of those points were in garbage time against the Seahawks. Carson Wentz seems to have lost all confidence in his ability. He was missing wide open receivers the entire game. Early in the first quarter, he had Zach Ertz wide open on a crossing pattern for an easy first down. Threw the ball behind him. Next possession, he had Miles Sanders wide open in the flat for an easy touchdown. Overthrew him by 10 yards. At this point, Carson Wentz is the worst player on this team. And Doug Peterson is not helping him. Peterson hasn't reached Jason Garrett levels of incompetence. But he's calling plays acting like Carson Wentz is Steve Young when he's closer to butt fumble Mark Sanchez. You can't win when you turn the ball over 5 times in one game. Think about this for a second. The Eagles' defense has given up 61 points the last 4 games. The Eagles are just 2-2 in that stretch. Carson Wentz is saying all the right things in the media, but this has been a problem all season. I realize they're banged up offensively. Both Alshon Jeffrey and Nelson Aguilar were out. They're missing a couple of offensive linemen. But the Eagles didn't need Wentz to be superhuman Sunday. They just needed him to manage the game. What they didn't need is him being responsible for 4 turnovers. Fans in Philadelphia are begging for Nick Foles. It's too late for that. This franchise committed big money to Wentz in the offseason. Clearly, it was a mistake. They held on to the wrong quarterback. Nick Foles fit perfectly in this offensive system. The guy won you a damn Super Bowl, and you let him walk. It's too late now. You're stuck with Wentz. The Eagles will win the NFC East by default. They have the easiest remaining schedule. Dolphins this week, twice against the pitiful Giants. Washington and Dallas. They should win all 5 games, finish 10-6, but they'll be bounced in the first round of the playoffs. Another struggling quarterback is Mason Rudolph. And his NFL career might be over before it's really even getting started. My God, is this guy an eyesore to watch play. Absolutely god-awful. He was so bad against the Bungles that he was benched for some guy named Devlin Hodges. Sounds like the name of a used car salesman. Credit to Hodges, though. He enters the game and leads the Steelers down the field for a touchdown. Something that Mason Rudolph has struggled to do all season. It's unbelievable that the Steelers are the number 6 seed in the AFC right now. Credit to Mike Tomlin for somehow having this team in the playoff hunt. Against one of the worst defenses in the NFL, against a Bungles team with nothing to play for, Mason Rudolph was 8 of 16 for 85 yards. Had an interception in the red zone in the first half. The balls were coming out of his hands wobbly the entire game. I heard people making the excuse that he was distracted from all the bullshit going on with the Myles Garrett situation, where he was basically labeled a racist. Oh yeah? Well, if that's the case, what the hell was his excuse for the pitiful performance against Cleveland the week before? To Rudolph's credit, he said the Garrett situation had nothing to do with his poor performance. Mike Tomlin's got an interesting predicament on his hands. Pittsburgh is in the thick of the playoff hunt. If the season ended today, they're in. But he doesn't have a competent quarterback to lead them. Benching Rudolph was a sign of desperation. He said the reasoning behind the decision was his offense needed a spark. Hard to disagree with him. This offense hasn't moved the ball in 3 weeks. It'll be interesting to see who starts next week against the Browns, but my money is on Devlin Hodges. All right, I've lost all interest in college football. This past weekend was the 6th or 7th time that we've been served up a heaping pile of shit with this college football schedule. I'll be completely honest with you. Saturday was the first time in 18 years that I didn't watch 1 minute of college football. I'm just to the point where I'm not going to continue to waste my time watching this garbage. Only game that piqued my interest was Penn State, Ohio State. They put the game on at 11 o'clock in the fucking morning. Could you not have found a spot in prime time for the only competitive game of the week? Then I get on Twitter Saturday night, and I see the Bama Rednecks celebrating their big win over Western Carolina. If we beat Auburn, we should be in the playoffs. Are you kidding me? A win over a 3-loss Auburn team is meaningless. Alabama has as much business in the college football playoff as Bruce Jenner has being in the ladies' restroom. Oh, excuse me, Caitlyn Jenner, my bad. College football has become mundane. There's nothing exciting about it. As bad as the BCS system was, at least it created excitement throughout the regular season. I feel like this playoff system has made college football worse. Teams are running away from legitimate opponents, trying to make it through the regular season undefeated. The BCS system punished you on the strength of your schedule. And it sucks. I mean, I used to love college football. There have always been cupcake games on the schedule. It's always been like that. But it's never been this bad to where a team like Clemson has 12 weeks of cupcake games. Alabama had 2 bye weeks this year. What the fuck do you need 2 bye weeks for? Outside of LSU and Auburn, the entire schedule's a bye week. And to be honest, Auburn's really not that tough of an opponent because they can't move the damn ball. I'd put a 2-loss Penn State team in the playoffs over both Alabama and Clemson. Like I said a second ago, Dabo Swinney's schedule is worse than Nick Saban's. It's an eyesore. If I were a Clemson season ticket holder, I'd demand for my money back. Why am I spending thousands of dollars a season to watch you play teams like Wofford and Wake Forest? All right, that's all for today. Hit the like and subscribe button on YouTube. If there's anything that you guys want me to cover, leave me a comment in the section below, or you can hit me up on Twitter at KC_BTL84. Leave that 5-star rating on iTunes. I appreciate your support. I'll see you guys Friday morning. Have a good Thanksgiving and enjoy the real football on Thursday.